Welcome to the Sistering Podcast. I'm Audra, and this is my mom, Rhonda.
Hello.
Happy Thanksgiving. It is Thanksgiving break. I've been off of school for a whole week, well, almost a week now, and it's been so restful. So I pray that you guys have had good rest. When we were thinking about what we wanted to talk about, we obviously wanted to keep thankfulness in mind. And one of the things that had continued to show up a couple of times for me in the last 2 weeks, maybe, has been Luke 17:11 through 19. And it's when Jesus heals 10 people, 10 men with leprosy, and only one came back to thank him. And it was just so poignant because it came up twice. And I was like, okay, God, why are you bringing this back? And it was just with this reminder of being thankful for the things that he has given us, but that sometimes we in our excitement to receive the blessings that he's given, we sometimes forget to be grateful and thankful. We forget to go back and give him the thanks that he deserves. So it was just a timely reminder to be thankful, to be grateful for what we have, but also just to be sensitive to it. And so, yeah, that was really cool. So as we started talking about this more, Mommy had some ideas.
Well, for me, it's been an interesting 2 weeks in my work, in my ministry, in my home, and of course, thankfulness comes out. Um, you know, who's the person who the persons that put smiles on your face? Well, immediately, who's the person that puts smiles on your face? What's the first set of people?
My baby.
Right, and that's the same thing for me. My granddaughters, right? Children, they're just so special in our lives. But there are a lot of other people too. In the same vein, before Thanksgiving came up in our birth country of the Bahamas, we had a major tragedy where a young girl lost her life, and her life was taken tragically. Uh, and they're saying that the perpetrator was mentally unstable. So in that, I see two really horrible situations. And then during the mother's interview, she said something. She says she kept saying, "Where's my village? Where's my village?" And I said to Audra, I said, I would like for us to talk about that because I think if we can tie that into our thankfulness too, what is a village? Like, what is a village? When do you think of a village? What do you think of a village as?
I think it's for me it's this support system of people that help you, with your family, with your kids, like if I'm sick, they'll step in and bring food, and or if I have a late meeting, they'll step in and maybe pick up my girls so that they're not at school till 5:30. Or just things like that. If a friend is running late to pick up their kids, I'll grab them and keep them with me until they get there. Those sort of things. Praying with each other, being able to really like, hey, I'm going through this season right now and it's tough and I need this. I need you to hold me up. I need you to kind of both, support me while I walk this, but also take care of my people while I don't have what I would like to be able to do.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I think she said in what she spoke about a couple of times, she talked about support. Remember, our sistering podcast is based on that, right? When I'm weak, who's going to be strong for me? And we're talking specifically to sisters, but it could be anyone. When we think of a village, it's an African proverb, right? And it says it takes a village to raise a child. And when you look at the meanings of it, it says take an entire community of different people interacting with children in order for a child to experience and grow in a safe environment. The first thing we talk about is who brings smiles to our face, and it was our children. The other part, another African proverb says, a person is a person because of other people. So the village then makes people, it determines who we are. We've both been in the classroom, and in terms of Thanksgiving, we have received multiple thanks from parents, grandparents, and from students of just what we have given them through the years of teaching. And it's a continual thing, it doesn't stop. So it's a community of believers. So here's this woman saying, "Where's my village? Where's my village?" I don't know her story. and we're not going to focus on her story. But what I want to focus on, what does that village look like? In our lives, the village has looked different.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, we're all born into a village. We're
Yeah.
born into a family unit, a father, a mother, grandparents of their life, great grandparents of their life, cousins, aunts, uncles, the
Yeah.
whole 9 yards. For me, the most important person other than my parents in my village when I was growing up, when I was a little girl, was my great grandmother,
Yeah.
Edith, right? She took care of multiple generations of people. She was the matriarch of our family. And she was a little 5'2" little woman. I'm 5'10". She was little,
I'm 5'11".
and she likes the fact that she's taller than me.
1 inch, but I got it.
Sad, really sad. But anyway, back to my mom.
Sorry.
She took care of us, and she was there. She supported my mother, my cousins, our aunts and uncles, and she took care of her grandchildren and her great grandchildren. So we knew an integral part of our village was Mama for all of us, and they then became a village for each other. And that's just when I was little. When you were little, your familial, which we're focusing on the familial village right now. What did that look like for you?
When I was really young, I remember we used to go to my mama's house after school. My mom, my dad's mom. We used to go there after school because I guess the traffic was really long, so we would stop there, and she always had food ready, and everybody was there. We all did our homework there. We all got to hang out with all the cousins and all of her children. We all hung out there, so that was fun. That was a good support system, I think. And in that, you didn't have to, think about that. You could stop there, get some food, and then by the time we got home, everything that we needed, the homework was done, food was ate, and we could just settle into bed. And so I think that was a really big kind of support that she offered. So I think that would be the biggest one when I was really young.
And that's interesting because, okay, so she sees it from her perspective. So, see, this is something I want you to really understand too, right? That each person is going to view a situation through their own lenses. So, I agree, that was a definite village. That was my mother in law. So, here I'm an adult woman, but that's her mama, but that's my mother in law. And I want to tell you, I had a fantastic mother in law. She supported us. She supported each one of her children. She supported her grandchildren. There was a time where she would purchase a grocery. When she went to the grocery store, each grandchild had their own specific grocery bag
Yep.
that she bought. They all liked different things.
Yeah.
You know,
She cared about that.
she cared about that. She loved to feed us. She's a Long Island woman, right? So she loved to feed all of us.
Yeah.
So that was her joy. But she taught us so many things. She taught me how to plat straw, because she had retired after a certain point, and she would plat straw and different things like that. You know, she was in the church. She was a deacon in her church,
Boy,
and she would take the children to church.
When that bottle is over, we show him. I mean, them ladies were in there just singing, and it was hot in the church, and we were all there like, why are we here? But to this day, we're in our 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and or 30s, and we're all like, anytime we talk about mama, that comes up. That song, we're all with the tambourine, just killing it. It was a hair, something that we didn't think was important then, but super super important. I remember she'd take us to the pool. All the cousins, we'd go to the pool, and she'd have us in that pool for hours.
And whose pool were you by?
Aunt Linda.
Aunt Linda.
Yeah.
Because Mama, that was her younger sister, and she would travel. Her husband was from England, and she would travel. They would go away for the summer, and so Mama would take care of the home and house sit for her. So again, there's that support and the village, right?
Yeah.
But she talked about the church ladies when they went to church. That's a different village. So you have the familial village, but then you have the extended village. We kind of mentioned ours as educators, as teachers. We are an extension of that home,
For
because
sure.
we get to spend how much?
8 hours
8 hours a
a
day.
day through the week with these kids. And if you really are, if we're really looking at it, we spend more time with these children, with our students, than they do with their parents. Um,
Engaged time,
yeah,
right?
definitely engage. When you break down the hours, 'cause by the time we get home from school, it's food, bed, homework, and sleep. It's not a lot of hanging out and interacting. And so yeah, it's like as a teacher, what does that look like being a village for these children? For me, it's pouring into them in the ways that I see God calling them. So I have a student and he loves to talk and he has a lot of energy. And I told him, I was like, you're gonna be a youth pastor one day because that level of energy, I don't know. And he just talk. So talking, people usually that have the gift of speaking, they end up being teachers or pastors or something in that realm. And he was like, that's what you see in me? And I'm like, yeah. And I said it half joking, but like, it was something that really stuck with him. Um, just having students in my classroom that never enjoyed school. They never liked going to school. They always hated school. And now getting parents saying, like, my kid is excited about school. When I pick them up, like, they're talking about you and what they do in their classroom and they're having fun. Like, they enjoy school. And my child is different and better because they've been around you, because that's the goal, right? Like, if God hasn't trusted these children with me for 8 hours a day, for this 5 days a week, then I should pour into their lives in an eternal sense,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Because it's bigger than that. I have a student that does not like to talk. She just doesn't talk. And I told her mom at the beginning of the year, I was like, by the end of the year, she's gonna be talking. She's gonna be loud. Her mom was like, okay. And just in the last couple of months, like she was like the other day, she was like, Miss D, if I yell really loud, will you give me an M&M? And everyone was like, whoa, is she yelling right now? And we're all like, what? Yay! But there's an encouragement that happens, when we are pouring into them, and that they should be in a safe place,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
they're sending your kids somewhere for 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. They should be safe.
Yes.
And so, like, I'm their biggest protectors at school. Like, we don't talk like that. We don't do that. We don't behave like that. We treat each other with respect. We're kind. Like, that's just something we're going to do in this class, and we're going to support and love each other. But we're also going to create a safe place because we don't know what somebody else is dealing with outside of here. So when we come into this classroom, we're going to uplift each other. And it's been really encouraging to watch sixth graders like, hey, dude, don't say that. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know what they're dealing with. And like, just even like praying over each other and loving on each other because they heard, oh, wow, I didn't know you were dealing with that. And so they treat each other better because there's a standard of safety there. Right. And so then they've been able to village each other, which has been cool.
Exactly. And see, that's what I want to show you, right? Sometimes you're like, well, where's our village? But let's define what that really looks like. I have students that I taught years ago. They're adults, they're married, they have children, and they still call me. And she's Mrs. D and I'm Mama D, and they still call me and they tell me that life's what's happening in their lives. They want me to be a part of their lives. So it's a continual process. And like she says, even those students, as she's teaching and she's training them, they have now become, you're teaching them how to become a village for each other. So we talked about the African problem, but the biblical aspect of this is if we look at the Acts church, if you go into the Acts in the Bible, you will see that there came a point where they were forming the church, and it specifically said they loved one another. And they loved one another so well that each person didn't have a need. So if I had a need and Audra knew I had a need, she met that need. Vice versa.
Yeah.
So nobody had a need because the village took care of everyone else.
No matter how small.
No matter how small, no matter how big. It even said that people sold their possessions to make sure that the village was taken care of, that the church body was cared for. And I believe that that's what Christ ultimately mandated for us, the church to look like, that we love one another. It says that they will know us by our love. How are we loving? The Bible also tells us, right, to love someone else like you love yourself,
Mm.
right? That's what it says. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
That's villaging. What does villaging mean? It means that I'm going to support you no matter what. Where you need help, I'm going to be there. So when we think of the church aspect, I think of those women she talked about with Mama, right? Those women from Mama's village. Yes, she had her children, she had her sisters, she had her family, but she also had a church family. Those women, no matter what, they would show up. If any of them was in the hospital, if any of them were in need, they would show up. They
Yeah.
showed up at each other's homes. They cooked. They prayed for one another. You know, for me, I have multiple villages because I'm Bahamian by birth. We've lived in Virginia for 12 years. Now we're in Florida. Again, I'm in Florida again. This is my second term in Florida. And so I have multiple villages around the world. And it's such a blessing to me because at any given time, if I have a need, if I have a request, I can reach out to my village in those three different places and other places around the world. And I know that I have sisters who will, I guarantee I have sisters who will pray for me.
Yeah.
So my village is so big in so many ways. So you have a small village, a microcosm of a village, and then you have a bigger village. And so we have a lot to be thankful for.
Oh, for
We have
sure.
a lot to be thankful for.
Well, and I think even like when you're talking about like church villages, I started processing the different villages, like the different churches that I've been at, because like college and then when I was younger, we went to different, we went to church, whatever. Whenever we moved, it would be a different church or something. But I just remember like specifically, there's three that I can think of right now that are like a big thing for me. Well, I'm thinking four, but um, the first was in college, my senior year of college, when I got pregnant with Myra.
Yes.
Um, and I just remember I was in a Bible study, and I remember when I found out I was pregnant, I was on the worship team, and I was, what's it called? And I was in this Bible study, and I just remember like the way that they wrapped themselves around me in that season, being 20, having a baby, not knowing what I'm doing and terrified. But they came around me and loved me
Yeah, your
well.
parents were there.
Yeah, y'all were not in the area I was living in, so it was this like, oh, I need people, and they were at my baby shower, they were at all the things, the gender reveal, they were there. They prayed over me, they prayed over Myra. When I told the worship pastor, he was like, "Hey, if you in your situation still want to praise God, like then you should be on stage. Like I don't want you. This child needs to grow up in this." And I remember like because they spoke into
Live.
into us, I remember I would be singing worship and Myra would just be like in my stomach, and I'm like, this child needs to like chill. But it was just like, wow, like the impact of that village I could physically feel within me because of the way that Myra even responded to that village. That was one of the big, that's, I think, forever going to stick with me. I think the next one was when I went to,
So, but hold on. So you're saying that, and we're also saying the village sometimes changes.
yeah,
Some villages are for the entire season of our
yeah,
lives, and then some are temporary seasons. So for her, this was a season where she had fallen,
yeah,
and she needed to feel the love of God to understand that God was in the midst of this. And
yeah,
so
and
her
they did
village
that.
showed up
They showed a
strong.
lot of grace, a lot of
And
grace.
that's important. If the church isn't showing grace, if the church is supposed to be, she talked about a village being a safe place.
Yeah,
The church should be the safest place The people who are fallen should be able to go to. And unfortunately, sometimes it isn't. But we're not going to
Yeah.
talk about that today. We have
We
a
will
we have
go
a
there.
second episode on the village, and we're talking about a toxic village. But that's a different episode. But that church showed up
Yeah,
big
when I
time
needed
for
it.
you when you needed it.
Yeah.
And
They not only impacted me, but they impacted Myra. They impacted you all because you knew
yes,
your baby was safe.
yes,
But they were able to wrap us in God's presence and God's love, and we were able to stay in church, right?
right,
Because we
right,
weren't kicked out of the church. We were able to stay there and
right.
really be bolstered with Christ, and it was such a beautiful experience. I think even when I think of your village extending to me, during that same season,
Yeah,
Julie.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
oh,
we were in the Bahamas setting up our missions, and our baby called, and she's like, "Hey," and we're like, "Okay, what are we gonna do?" The thing is, when she called, she was already repentant. God had already forgiven her, and this is what her church also practiced.
yeah,
She went to them in a repentant attitude, and God had already forgiven her. The Bible tells us that there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus.
yeah.
They did not put shame on her because she was fallen. They accepted her because she was forgiven. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, sometimes the church misses that.
Yeah,
And they continue to condemn instead of accepting the act of forgiveness that God has already done. And her church did that. So for us, here we were in a whole other country, we're setting up ministry.
yeah,
Here's our child. She's saying, hey, um, like I said, she came repentant. So when I go to God and I confess my sins, the Bible tells me He's faithful and just to forgive me for all my sins and to cleanse me from all unrighteousness. And that's the same thing we extended to her. So we got on the phone. She's a senior in college, and I don't want her to not be able to finish. So I got on the phone and I called some people that I knew. Again, my private village
village
back
came
there,
in, but
right? My village came right back. I called them and I said, hey, um, Audra's in this situation. What can we do? So they said, okay, we'll get her into the godparent center, the godparent home in Virginia, so that she doesn't have any issues with finishing her senior year well.
yeah,
It didn't go for her
yeah,
as well as she needed to. And so I called my girlfriend and I said, hey, this is what's happening. Will you pray for me? Blah, 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 blah. She says, what? We're going to go get her now. Her and her husband and her daughter went and they got my baby. And they took her into their home. And she's my sister, right? She'd already proven that she was my sister in different. Our relationship wasn't new. We had a ongoing relationship, but that caring, caring for somebody's child when they are at their lowest point. She didn't have anyone else, and so for her to take her in and to care for her, like I said, villages in different seasons. She didn't understand how the village was going to tie into
oh
this
my,
thankfulness.
for those of you who don't know, I don't like to cry.
She hates crying.
Okay.
She likes to hide her emotions.
Oh,
But she stepped up. Her family stepped up,
yeah.
and they loved on her and they loved on
They love me
Myra
well.
so
Wow.
so well.
So much so that the husband, he was out of town around the time that I was supposed to have Myra, and Myra would not come. She would not come, and she came
When
the day he came back.
yeah.
When he came back was when she showed up, and he was like, she was just waiting on me to get back. It was just they loved me well, and it was awesome. It was cool to watch your village extend to me, and when I needed it,
Yeah.
it was cool.
Yeah. And I had been there for their daughter. So that's what
Yeah.
I just want you to understand too. A village isn't about taking. A village is about giving and giving, giving and taking, giving and taking. Today you, tomorrow it will be me.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
Myra's grandmother was another big
Oh,
component
big
of your
village.
village.
Big village.
You know, when Myra came, we were, yeah, yeah, because we were still in the States. So she didn't meet Myra until Myra came to Bahamas. But when Audra got to the Bahamas, this woman loved on Audra, like Audra
Mm-hmm.
was her daughter. She loved
Yeah.
you
Sure.
well. You know, she loved Myra well. She says, Audra, I'm going to babysit. I'm going to take Myra.
Yeah.
I'm coming to get Myra.
And for a while, I was like, no, she's still too little. She's my baby. I have to keep her. And then finally, I was like, okay. And she came every weekend, took her
And
baby.
no matter where you were,
She was like,
she would find you where you were
that's
to
my
come
baby.
and get
Yeah.
her granddaughter.
Yeah.
But she did. It wasn't just about her granddaughter. It was also about Audra. She would come to the house to pick up Myra, and they would walk to the car, and they would be out there for about an hour or so, just
Okay.
talking. Listen, guys, a village is about those who love you and love you well, and you in turn love. We love Christ because He first loved us. A village is about loving. You know,
Yeah.
sistering. I have sisters. I have three biological sisters, and then I have well, I have three in the marriage, and then I have others outside the marriage. Right, I have two in the marriage.
You're three.
I'm the oldest of the three.
Yeah.
Yes, and then I have others outside the marriage too. But I have a lot of sisters, and at different times we have loved one another in different ways. When the one next to me, when she was going off to college, my husband and I, we lived in Florida, and we took them up to school. When she didn't have enough for food or whatever, they called us, and we didn't have a lot either, but we took what we had and we sent to them to make sure that they could support themselves, hand hand in hand, together. That's what it's supposed to look like. But then there was when she then when we went off to Bible school, we had hardships because we came to Bible school with absolutely nothing. And there were times where we needed funding or whatever. And so I was able to call her, and she made sure that we had what we need. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. A village isn't about taking,
No.
it's about supporting one another.
Yeah.
Today I may be weak, so you can be strong. Tomorrow you
Yeah.
may be weak, and then I'm strong.
Yeah.
Okay? So, what does our village look like? I don't know. But sometimes we have to open our eyes. Audrey talked about thankfulness,
Yeah.
right? If we're not thankful, we miss the people who could be a part of our village. We miss the important people. I grew up Anglican, and so my church, I believe St. Agnes did villaging well. I believe that we had a really good community, especially the young adults. We did things together. We're still friends. We're still friends today. When each one of us, huh? Yeah, you know, when each one of us got involved with somebody else, that person was brought in and they became part of the village. Children, we connect with one another. Today we can pick up the phone and call any one of those people, and the village still holds.
Yeah.
Calvary Bible. When we were at Calvary Bible,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah. We did many groups, many church. So we would all be in each other's homes, and all of the young people, we all kind of grew up together, and we're all friends. Like we don't hang out all the time, but we're all connected. And if we needed something from each other, we at different times we've interacted in that way with each other. It's been cool to kind of watch that even as we've grown up, because there was like what 10, 12
yep,
of us.
yep.
And so we're all now adults in our families with children, and it's fun to watch just that support, that kind of connection to blossom.
And the village changes sometimes because of the trajectory of your lives. So
Sure.
for us, our lives went the route of Christianity. And so sometimes your familial unit doesn't necessarily walk that same road. Well, that means now that your value systems and the things that you're going after, you're trying to attain, they're maybe different than your familial unit. So your church family, the people that you're going to probably spend eternity with, uh, they now become closer. They
Yeah.
become your unit more
Yeah.
than your familial family,
Yeah, that
just
happens.
because of the values that you share.
Yeah, that does
Um,
happen.
because again, you want to raise your children a certain way.
Right.
And so if the familial unit isn't necessarily doing it, then you're going to have a separation
Yeah.
in there
Yeah.
that,
I think even what you just said, like raising your children in a certain way, I think it's so important that when we're considering our village, we consider people that are like minded
yes,
because those people are supposed to be supporting you and the things that they teach will impact your children,
yes,
and so I think of even just the friends that I have right now in this season, that I'm in this raising of children season, and they are like minded. I have a friend that she has two girls in similar ages of my girls, and she don't we don't sleepovers ain't a thing, but we want our children to experience sleepovers, or so we have a sleepover. We have an all girls sleepover, so we all are in the house together, me, her, and the girls, and we watch the girls together. So they get to have it, but there's a safety there. you know. I have a friend that has older girls, and she's like, I need you to pour into my girls because you have something that you can give them that I don't have. Her girls are mixed, and she is my little Latina friend. I have a lot of Latina friends, but she's like, I don't have that. She was very vulnerable with me today. Like, I don't have that. I don't know how to teach them how to operate as a, you know, darker complexion person in the world, a woman in the world. I don't know how to pour into them in that way, but you do. I need you to kind of love on my babies. And so I was like, absolutely, I would love that, and I have formed a connection with them where they've had some really tough seasons, and I've been able to pray over them and love them in those seasons. And it's just been encouraging to be able to feel not only people trusting you with their children, but you also being able to trust
yes,
them with yours. I'm
yes.
like on Sunday, this past Sunday, the girls are like, "Can we go outside and play?" And I'm like, "I'm not outside. No, you can't go outside. Like, no, because they have to be in my eyesight." And I was like, "I have a village here, and I trust these people. I do. So okay, if they're outside and there's an adult watching, then yes." And all the kids were outside playing and having fun, and my girls get to,
And this is a church.
yeah. So they got to experience, they got to have fun because there was a village. Like one week I might watch the kids, the next week she might watch the kids, but that's just kind of what it looks like.
You talked about safety, support, training,
Yeah,
you know, a lot. And when you talk about in the village, especially when it relates to children. And so, you know, we talked about with you when you were younger, the familial unit being the strongest unit. But you talked about pouring into your friends' teenage daughters.
yeah,
And when you were a teenager, as a mother, I had to realize that I didn't have everything she needed.
yeah,
But who in my village could I extend to hers to make
yeah,
sure that she was getting what she needed? Because the reality is that when your kids start to grow up, you don't know anything. They think they know everything, and so as a
they grow
parent,
up.
you have to be wise.
Yeah,
And so, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I prayed and there was a beautiful young family in our community that we
yeah,
did life with, Aaron
young
and
couple,
Zawadi, right?
couple of them.
And I went to Aaron. I said, okay, so I know you, I know your values, I know your belief systems. I need you to be there for Audra.
I love her.
Uh-huh.
I thought she was the coolest person. So she had an ear piercing, and I just I want this, I wear my ear cuffs. I'm terrified of needles, so I haven't pierced my ears yet. But like, I do this because I remember when she had the bar, and I just thought she was the coolest thing ever. I thought she was so cool. Um, and I would go over by her their little apartment, and we talked about life. And at that point, boys were a thing in my life, so we talked about relationships, and she shared with me how her husband courted her and loved her well and was really protective of her, and did it right. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, it was just really cool to hear. And it was the exact same thing she told me. But I
Yes.
didn't think it was cool coming from her because she was my mother. But from this cool young hip girl, with the piercings, I just thought she was cool. So I cared more what she thought than maybe what you thought at that season.
Yeah, and I
And
knew
she
that,
poured
and I was
into me in
okay
a
with
lot
it.
of ways.
I was okay with it because she and I had already talked about it,
Yeah,
right? And so I said, I'm going to need you to be in here and a sounding board for her. Are you okay with that? And she said, yes, I'm definitely okay with that. And she would come back and she would share. And I said, yeah, I know. I know you're going to tell her the exact same things I tell her. And so, but she's going to receive it better from you.
yeah.
And so as you grow and you raise your children, you have to be deliberate in the choosing of the people that you want in their lives.
Yeah, and I think even that, like, sometimes you don't have a choice in the people that are in their lives. But if if there is prayer involved, right, which I believe God works in amazing ways, right? But God can work in situations and make it better so that it could be a village,
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking of, like, with Chelsea. Like, that wasn't the greatest beginning,
Right.
Myra's bonus mom. But we have a village now, where, like, I love her babies. I love her girls. They're the cutest little things ever. But she knows she can call on me, if she needs help with her girls, because she takes really good care of Myra, right? She loves Myra well. Um, and it's been a blessing because I didn't necessarily choose her to be a part of Myra's village, but God, I prayed a lot over the situation, and God has restored that situation to where it can be something that brings Him glory, right? We are able to operate in a way that brings glory to God, brings glory to what He wants for her life. There is a communication in there where she supports well, and we can have those conversations, and it's been awesome to even just explore that type of village, and so sometimes even if it's not somebody that
Honey
you
Stacy.
I was thinking about Annie Stacey. Yeah, there's this level of, like, there's just people, God's gonna place people that He needs in your life for a reason, and it's a beautiful thing. And if we're prayerfully considering why God has placed this person and what purposes this person serve, then we're more likely to be grateful for that person. We're more likely to thank God. Like, there's a level of consideration and care. Like, it's just different, And I, especially with this season of thankfulness, like, I am so grateful for just the people that have come in and supported and walked alongside us at different seasons, and are still walking alongside us. It's just been really, really great blessing to be able to experience that, and to just have those different pockets of people that I know I can call on, and they'll drop everything and be there, and I would drop everything to be there for them too,
Yeah. It's crazy. What she said is so true. But we talk about sistering, and I don't want you to believe that we forget our men. My husband is, I can't even begin to explain the type of man he is. He's just a great man. But 2 years ago, Audra had to make a big move. She had purchased her first home, and he leads a Bible study at our church, and he does congregational care. and he put a clarion call out,
Yeah.
and
And before that, I was, we had talked about the moving because we had closed on this house and and I had, I had time to move in. I wasn't a rush, but I just needed out and I needed to get into our space as soon as possible. And I told him that I was like, I don't know if it's possible, but this is my heart. And then,
he put out a clarion call, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen um, when the big riggers are coming through. Well, these guys showed up.
with their
They
trucks
started.
and
They
they
started their
loaded,
trucks and their trailers and everything like
because
that.
in our perspective, the house move would have taken more
Yeah.
than a day. They came in and took all the furniture, everything was in here. Like that night, I closed that morning, that night I was in the house. And it was just, uh,
And they placed everything in every specific room.
yeah.
Even
They set up everything too.
everything. Even
They
the washer.
The
The
washer and
washer and
dryer,
dryer.
they
He
hooked
would
up.
not leave. And this person has become a brother to my husband and I. He is just his heart is just so big and so precious. I love him, and we've been there we pray for him and his family all the time. But I watch them do life together, these men, and they're doing village really, really well. They go out and they help people, they serve other people. It's just a beautiful thing, And so, but I want you to remember, having a village is a deliberate act
Yeah.
of love.
Oh,
It's a deliberate act of love.
It
You
requires
can't.
sacrifice.
It requires sacrifice, and you can't have a strong and a competent village, a supportive village without love. Without love and without sacrifice, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And so we have to learn how to love each other and love each other well. Selfishness cannot be a part of the village.
No.
We have to be willing to drop some things when somebody else has need.
Yeah.
How do we love? Well, honestly, as Christians, I believe that, and as people as a rule, we cannot love well unless we know Christ. I really believe this because love is from God. And so we have to understand who we are in Him first. And then I can truly love somebody well. Because otherwise, the traumas in my life, all those things are going to play out and they're going to bring negative impacts into the village that we don't need. And so we have to be gracious. We have to remember supporting in the village. We have to remember training in the village. Remember, some villages are going to be a temporal village.
Yeah.
Some villages are going to last forever, right? You are going to be the strong one in the village sometimes.
Yeah.
Somebody else may be strong for you in the village sometimes. But the village, we we don't exist apart from other people.
Yeah,
Remember that. We're
Not
not islands, and we're built for relationships. And so my heart goes out to this young woman because she's crying after finding her daughter dead, hearing that her daughter is dead and taken from her in this tragic way. Where was my village? Like I said, I don't know her story. I don't know her story. But it made me think, hey guys, where's your village? Who are your village? But like we started earlier, if you have people in your village, thank them.
Yeah.
Reach out to them. Let people know. There's a saying, give me my flowers before I die. Don't wait until they die to talk about them at the funeral.
Yeah.
Let them know whilst they are alive how valuable they are to you.
Yeah.
Today we hinted at just a few people in our village, and there's so much more. There are people who support our ministry. Listen, people don't understand when you're in full-time ministry, support from those who say they believe in what you do is huge.
Yeah.
And so those people, and they know who they are, they support every month. They are on time, and they support with their prayers, with their giving, with their love. Listen, let them know. promised tomorrow.
Mm.
There's no guarantee
Mm.
that we are given another tomorrow. So we have to give thanks.
Yeah.
We have to express gratitude. Who are the persons that make you smile? In this last week, what do you have to be thankful for?
Yeah.
In the last 24 hours, what was the best thing that happened to you? Think about these things on a regular basis because I believe that it will generate that type of giving. And then you could say to yourself, who have I helped?
Yeah. It's definitely being sensitive to the spirit daily, for the Lord to really show you the spirit of thankfulness. Because I think sometimes it is so easy to get sidetracked with life that we forget, oh, this person, yes, they're stressing me out right at this moment, but I'm great. I'm blessed to have this person. I'm honored. God blessed me with this person, to support and that I can support. That's real life, And so when we are operating in a spirit of thankfulness and a spirit of gratitude and just this, God, show me and reveal to me what it is that you are doing, what you have, like those things show up and we're able to really express that gratefulness. But I think it's giving God the glory for the people and the things that He's placed in your life. He has given you a village because He said, never will I let you walk alone. And so sometimes that is people in your life lifting you up, in His place, him saying, hey, can you hold her up for me, please? And so it is, hey, God, thank you for this. Thank you for these people. Thank you for what you've blessed me with. And being grateful and sensitive to that, you know. Yeah, I it's been a good one. I didn't expect to get emotional about, but it was good. It's good. So next time we'll be continuing this conversation about the village and more on the opposite end of the spectrum of like, oh, what's a bad village. And so yeah, join us for that. I think that'll go well.
We look forward to sharing with you again. Thank you as always for spending some time with us. We really, really appreciate it. Like,
comment,
subscribe,
share, all the things. Yes, all the things that that you're.
Yeah, let us know that you're listening. We have had great response from our friends in Thailand, from our friends in Barbados, the Bahamas, all over the United States. We thank you for listening, and we pray that at least one person is affected positively by what we do.
And please, 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 please reach out and tell us what you want to hear.
Yes.
We would love to have that conversation with you guys. Yes. We would love to hear what you want us to share, what you would like to know about us. Maybe if you have questions, we could do like a Q&A.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be fun.
And we do have people that we're lining up to be as guests.
Yes.
Pray that they don't be afraid that they show up.
I think it'll be good. So let's have a good rest of your Thanksgiving break before you go back to work. I mean, I think most people are back to work, but as teachers, we have that extra minute.
Yes.
This has been fun. I'm Audra.
And I'm Rhonda. Have a great one.
See you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.